Next caller, you're on frog time. Oh, I wish I didn't start streaming.
What is your favorite book?
Ooh. My favorite sci-fi book that I would have to recommend, like, I guess this is a recommendation, is the Ted Chiang short story collection, Story of Your Life and Others, because every short story in there is like kind of a banger. Ted Chiang is like a incredible sci-fi author. So I would recommend that book to anybody. And one of the short stories was adapted to Arrival, but it's really good as the short story. There was another book I might reread this year called There Is No Antimemetics Division. Oh, you can reread it. I think you can read it for free online. I mean, now that I know this, it's obvious, but it's an SCP short story. I'm not a huge like SCP head, but you know, I'm aware of SCP. I think SCP is cool. But this one is like a standout short story or like short story series. And so the guy self-published it as an ebook or like as a hard book on Amazon. But you can read it for free. It's in the SCP-55 entry, and it's like a short story about the agents who work around SCP-55, which is the anti-meme. And it's like a concept that you will never remember. So like all the agents don't know that they're working on it, but then they have procedures to help remind them that they're working on it. And then it kind of gets into some interesting ideas around like, as humans, you kind of actually want to forget some things. Like you block out trauma, or you block out like every sensory, like you don't perceive every piece of sensory information that goes into your brain, that kind of stuff. It gets really crazy at the end, but I'm not sure it's my favorite book, but it's been one of the more memorable books I've read as of late. I want to say this. I am a bit of a like productivity book. I wouldn't say like enjoyer, but I have gone down that rabbit hole. I haven't read Atomic Habits. Okay, also side tangent to the tangent. I'm like on the third layer of Inception right now. But after this, I'll have the kick and I'll go up like the 2 layers and I'll talk about the normal thing again. There was a guy. I don't want to say the circumstance because like I think it would reveal information. So I'll just say there was a guy I was around and he was like, I started reading for my 2024 resolution. I started reading this book, Atomic Habits, which I don't think is a bad book. I've never read it, but I kind of know what the book is about. But I'm like, that is kind of like not baby's first book, but that is also kind of, I feel, adult baby's first book. It's like if you're a person who hasn't read for a long time, like I was, like those are like the books you start reading. Is like the kind of like the feel good self-help productivity books, which are good. I mean, it's a good book. Yeah, it's a good book. It's popular for a reason. And it's, I think it resonates with people who haven't been reading a long time, because if you haven't read a book in a long time, it's not correlation. It's not causation. It's more correlation that you probably have fell out of some good habits in your life. So like you need something to jumpstart, like, oh, I want to be better at going to the gym or something. Anyway, okay. Next level up. The kick has happened. Okay. So yeah, I am a bit, I do like peruse some fun productivity books, or like in the, I guess they would be categorized in self-help category. The one book I really enjoyed in that category it's called Peak. It's just about how people get really good at stuff. It's really, I guess, obvious in hindsight, but they have a lot of studies, and it's kind of, it is a little counterintuitive, because I think people have a lot of mental models on how experts think, and the book really breaks it down as to how they think, which is they don't think. They don't think. They just do one thing really well a lot, and then it becomes second nature, and it really goes into detail about that. But there's another really popular book in this genre, and it's called Creativity Inc., which I'm reading through right now. It's like the story of Pixar. It's written by one of the founders of Pixar, and he talks about, I thought it was going to be mostly about Pixar history, which I was kind of interested in. And there's a bit of that, but then it becomes a management book, which I'm like, I'm sure this is great if you're like super into management practices, but I'm like, I'm not really into it. And it's a little fluffy on the management side. So I'm really half on it, and it's a long book. So it's kind of personally, it's going slog mode is what I'm saying. Is I'm kind of sad. It's kind of going a little slog mode. I read the Rick Rubin book too. I thought I would get more out of it, but I think I should have just bought the audiobook. Because if I just had Rick Rubin like saying the random shit he was saying in the book, I think it would have been better than just me reading it. The book is kind of nuts, to be honest. A lot of people are like, this is such a great book, which I think it comes into people's lives probably when they need it, but I'm like, this book is nuts. The Art of Learning, it might be the same one I'm thinking of, but I read a very similar book called How to Learn, and that was a very influential book because it has very specific things that it recommends you doing, and it backs it up by science, and it basically says like, if you don't do these things, like you're just learning suboptimally. And the shitty thing is it's just kind of boring. It's kind of like, if you want to be healthy, you need to eat good food kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, of course, but it really just hammers that in terms of learning. So the learning thing is you have to like, you can't cram. Cramming is usually bad. You'll forget it in the long run. Like you have to do it over time, slowly, and then like you jump between topics between what you're learning, so your brain doesn't get bored, and then actively recall and quiz yourself, which is all fair and good. Anyway, okay, good question, because that was long talking. Next caller, you're on Frog Time.
What's something you have done in your life that involves lots of corn kernels?
Yeah, I had some corn and then I boiled the corn for dinner. It was good. Next caller, you're on Frog Time.